Hello, everybody. I'm Steve the Medium, and with me I have One Fresh Perspective and CurrentPulse, and together we form Life Connection, spiritual and practical advice for your everyday life. How you folks doing today? That's you.
Doing
I'm
pretty
good.
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 Good, good. So today's topic is healing after the election and after the riots and the election, and trying to get everyone back on the same page and starting to forgive and connect with each other instead of everybody being all against each other. So that is our goal for today's stream. So my co-host Kat, she's going to kick it off with the first comment and the first part of the topic. Go ahead, Kat.
Well, we started talking about this as we were preparing, and it's like
Yes.
you can't not talk about it as part of the problem, but also I believe if we talk about it in the right way, in a healthy way, it can be part of the solution. But you can't help but talk about what's been going on just in the first month of this year. We all were not we all, a lot of people were like, yay, new year, new fresh start. And then bam, here we go. Riots and this election thing and all of it. And I think that might have pushed some people over the edge, a rough start after a whole year and with the expectation of it being different or better. So careful with your expectations. So it's been interesting to see how different people react and how people are responding or not responding. I'm seeing a lot of people either withdraw completely or up in arms. So I don't know. What have you guys seen or witnessed? What kinds of things are you experiencing?
I've experienced a lot of people just, losing friendships over all of this. People who are either diehard, Republican supporters or diehard Democrat supporters. And to be clear, this is not a political stream. We're not diving into the
Uh-huh.
politics of everything. Um, but it's just sad because I have seen people who have been friends for upwards of 15 years all of a sudden stop being friends just because of their political affiliations. And the one thing that we need to remember is that, no matter where you are in the world, what country you come from, whatever type of government that you have, we're all human beings and we all deserve friendship, and that something like politics really shouldn't be getting in our way of our friendships. We didn't form our friendships based on politics, so why should we let politics dictate where our friendships go? and
Exactly.
and that's been my thing. In fact, I just posted on Facebook a little while ago a thing about, okay, it's all over, let's start, being friends again and everything. And then there was like a bunch of replies on, we can't do that, we can't do that. And then other people saying it's not over yet. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, it kind of is over. I mean, the new president's been sworn in. What exactly is it you think someone's going to do now? I mean, whether you're a Biden supporter or a Trump supporter, whatever, that part of it's over. So now we need to come back together as a people and just start treating each other with the type of respect and love that we did prior to all of this.
I think people are digging their heels in because they don't feel seen or heard. And I think that's been a
Yeah.
big part of the problem. And so, honestly, I've been really just encouraging people, whether you agree with somebody or not, just listen, ask questions, be curious. I think that we've got to get back to that. Well, that's an interesting point of view. Can you tell me more about that? Instead of like, well, you're an
Yeah.
idiot. And look, we've gone from like being curious about one another and what makes us, think the way we do and asking questions in a respectful way to, you're an idiot if you believe A, and I'm an idiot to you if I believe B. And the reality, at least for me in my world, is there is way more than A and B to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole lot more going on, but it's become, and I think the media has a lot to do this, including social media, which we're on. So it's like,
Oh yeah,
sorry,
media and
but
social
it's,
media, they love to just incite things. They love to
yep.
just create problems where there shouldn't even be problems.
hmm
Yep.
it's true. I think that divisiveness creates drama, which as humans, people like drama. And so, the more you can divide, And again, it's like we've got to go back to the basics. I kind of was really hoping that this whole pandemic thing would lead us that direction, and I still hope that that does, but we've got to go back to, divided we will fall, united we
Absolutely.
can stand, and it's
Well,
really that basic.
I think a part of the problem there is I don't think people know how to have grown, mature, respectful conversations. Like,
Right,
no one wants to actually just sit down and have a serious, grown up, mature conversation without pointing fingers, without playing blame games, and just clear what's on their mind, clear what's on whatever's bothering them without attacking one another.
right,
Like, whatever happened to just agreeing to disagree, but yet still trying to sort through the issue and come to a compromise? Like, people just don't do that anymore. And I don't know
No,
why.
they
right,
don't.
right.
You know,
Well, because we've been threatened. When people are threatened, I mean, this is that, that basic fight or flight, right? So we've been
Yeah.
threatened for the whoever knows how long. I was going to say 4 years, but that's just too political. Um, but you know what I'm saying. So I think that our well-being, our lifestyle as we know it, a lot of people have really felt threatened, and so everybody's ready to fight because nobody wants to run from it. And I think when we're feeling safe, I think this is a really important issue. When people feel safe, they're more open to be
mhm,
able to have those types of discussion. They're
Yeah.
more open to different point of views. But right now, nobody's open to hearing anything because I need to tell you my opinion, which is the only one. And if you don't like it, we're going to fight.
right? Yeah, 100%.
Well, there's a change in the mindset too. Like, you people don't want to fix what's broken anymore. They just want to toss it aside and move on to the next thing. And it's like, well, whatever happened to like sitting down and fixing things? Like, you're too busy for that now? I don't understand this. We need to just move on mentality.
Yeah, there's an interesting. I was just listening to this doctor, and so it was really interesting to hear like the science behind it. There's actually science behind the way people have been behaving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it actually affects our brain when we get into that fight or flight mode and how it affects it. So I'm no scientist and I'm not going to even pretend to try to be or try to explain it. I just know that there are people out there who can explain this to you, that
Right.
there is science behind when we get into that fight or flight. It changes how we view things, it changes how our brain processes information, which that's the piece. We're also afraid for ourselves and our safety and our family that we can't hear anything. So we can't have those conversations. So it's going to take some time, I think, for people to feel safe again before they can even start having those conversations. But I do believe that we've got to have some accountability and start personally asking ourselves with every conversation, every post that you make, every comment that you leave on somebody else's, is this going to be part of a solution and healing, or is this going to add fuel to the fire?
You were reminding me of the song "The Police." Every breath you take. I'm like, wait, is that gonna be like that?
I, don't make me bust into song because you know I can do it.
Well, yeah, it's like, if you want to see the change, you have to be the
Be the
change. So if
change.
you want
Exactly.
something to change, you have to change your mindset. You have to change your way of approaching things.
Right. And I think we also, this is kind of one of my like soapbox things, is we've forgotten that we are all the same. We
Mhm.
all,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like a walking cliche sometimes, but those things are there for a reason. We all bleed the same. It's like
No,
we
that's
are
the truth.
all are made up the same. We all have the same basic needs. We all want to be heard. We all want to be a part of community. We all want to belong. Um, and yet we're at each other as though we're like different or better or superior or whatever. And that part has to stop. So we've
Absolutely.
got to hold ourselves accountable.
And the
Yeah.
other thing is,
Well,
you guys
that's
were
that's another issue. No one wants to hold themselves accountable anymore.
that's true.
Personal responsibility is really lacking right now, for sure.
That's 100% true. And then we were talking about the media and whatnot. And it's not just the media, but also social media. I mean, both of them combined.
Oh, absolutely.
They're one of the things that gets
Oh yeah,
me is that, and I saw this was,
I kind of lump them together.
yeah, well, that that they were saying that, just as an example, and again, I'm not taking any political side here, that they were saying that Biden's first day in office, he eliminated a bunch of jobs because of the pipeline. Well, no, he did eliminate 50 jobs. Yes, there was the volunteers and the temporary people that were working on the pipeline that he got rid of, but they're not even talking about the benefits of what he did, because the environmental and global impact on that. But it was a no, 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 he just
Oh
got rid of
yeah,
people's jobs.
It's
Well,
because
no,
it
because
depends on.
they were part-time volunteer people that their jobs weren't permanent anyway.
Well, and it's what's important to people. This is where people's values. If I value hard work over the environment, then I'm going to see that's how the divide happens.
yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
this is probably a topic for another day. But I just have to tell you, I live in one of the poorest counties in California, and there are so many jobs that we can't fill them fast enough. So this whole job thing, like the labor market right now is it's in desperate need of people, because there's so many people that either can't because they live with people who are high risk for COVID, or people don't want to because they're too scared because of the COVID. But I'm telling you, if somebody wants to work, then come to California, because there's lots of jobs. I don't think that this stuff about jobs right now is kind of crazy and frustrating to me, because that's a field that I work in, and there's so many jobs. Like, we have people beating our door down going, "Can you please send us employees?" So I'm not sure what everybody's upset about.
It reminds me of for those, I'm going to age myself here, but for all of us who used to watch Looney Tunes, the original Looney Tunes, not what they have now. It just reminded me of an Elmer Fudd type character who had a pickaxe on his back, and he was trekking his way over to California, going, I'm going to California, and I'm going to go strike some gold." That's what it
Right.
Is that
reminds me.
Yosemite Sam?
No, it wasn't Yosemite.
No.
No, it wasn't Yosemite, because Yosemite Sam, he didn't really do any type of singing. It was definitely
Oh.
Elmer Fudd. Yosemite Sam was the one who's like, "Ah, you filthy varmint."
I remember the Looney Tunes, but not well.
Yeah, so but again, if I value hard work over that, that's what I'm going to focus on with that topic or that issue. Because people, ultimately, you can find in the media um, something to support just about anything.
Yeah, but why can't they,
S-
when they're recording and when they're reporting, why can't they give you everything? Why do they only, like, it's like they take so many things out of context.
because they
It goes
work
back to they want to incite things.
right, and it's the people ultimately who own the companies have an opinion, and they don't want to share both sides because they have their side that they want to share. Which is another thing, is like I always encourage people, like, you need to do a little more research. If you watch one type of network news and only that, then you're probably not getting all the information, because everybody does have their bias. But all of that is, to me, the least of our concerns. We've got to start looking at, in what world did we get to the point where, like, what happened at the Capitol, or what happens at school shootings, or what happens, in what world did we get to the point where we find this, not that we think it's acceptable, but that this is even an option for people to think about. We've got to look at, how did we get here
I,
to
I
where this is happening?
Leadership.
How did we reach the insanity level?
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's leadership is really what it is. I mean, you have, if and I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to take sides, but I'm going to speak in general. Okay. Throughout history, when you had leaders who were very good at speaking and finding ways to connect with people and play on their fears. I mean, take away what's happened recently in the United States, but let's go back towards World War II with Hitler. I mean, the reason why he rose to power was because he was a very eloquent speaker, and he was able to manipulate people, and he was able to make people false promises, and he
But
got
this is
everybody agree. He got everyone to think that the problems were based on a subset of the population.
But this is exactly my point. When did we stop thinking for ourselves? Because we can't blame it on the leaders. I mean, the reality is, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, but I am going to say it. We can't even blame Trump for what he's done. We put him in office, and whether or not we want to fight over whether or not he got in there wrong or not, we still tolerated it and let it go for 4 years.
Hmm.
We pick celebrities, we pick celebrities to be the commander in chief of this country.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
we have done these things, so we've got to take a look at what are we doing. Why do we value celebrities so much more than, I don't know, a businessman, a baseball coach? Why do we value them so much that we're willing to, oh, he'll be fun to watch?
Hmm.
I mean, it's not the first time. I mean, it's not the first time we've put a celebrity in a position of power like that.
Yeah, and you're not
That
wrong.
goes back to accountability.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
Excuse
not
me.
wrong. You're definitely not wrong. It's, this is all about, and you're right. People have not been thinking for themselves. They've been thinking about, whatever. It's either like herd mentality where they go with the flow and they're going with, just what everyone else is doing. And you have a lot of people who just, for whatever reason, either feel like they don't have time to think for themselves, or they trust somebody, so they feel that they have all the facts, and if it sounds good, they go with them. I mean, my parents have a friend, and I'm not going to mention names, but they have a friend that they've been friends with for many years, especially my mom, and um, the only place she really gets her political information from is her son. And when you take that and then you bring that into the outside world with the people around you, and you're like, but wait a minute, like, and then you have people like, wait a minute, this is not what you're saying is not true, and then that also starts fights. Well, I read or I heard or I saw or whatnot this, and then someone's like, well, no, 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 this is what happened, and then people, it just gets kind of sticky.
It's true, but again, to go back to kind of listening to one another, we've got to get inquisitive about, so why do you think like that, and challenge people to challenge their own thoughts.
Hmm?
You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
and there's a way to do that. I think we've got to remind ourselves, like, we're really not that complicated. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If
Yeah.
somebody was asking you about your beliefs and they disagreed with you and they were being inquisitive, how would you approach that? Approach somebody that way. There's a way, like, to have those respectful conversations. And if you can't, here's the thing too. I really do believe this deep in my soul. We've got to get back to basic human respect, that I can respect you
Oh
just
yeah,
because
for
we
sure.
share this planet. And sometimes people confuse that, being a loving and kind and respectful person means I have to like everybody. No, I don't. I absolutely do not. It doesn't mean I have to agree with everybody. Here's what that means. And again, I am not a rocket scientist. This is really simple stuff. The most respectful thing I can do for somebody who I disagree with is to walk away.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, just walk away. Why stand there and argue? I mean, or if I'm feeling myself getting agitated by what somebody's saying, get out of the conversation and leave. Or if I'm reading a post, because I hear this a lot, I'll hear people say, I couldn't resist. I had to comment because it just was so infuriating. Why are you following somebody or reading a post that's going to make you that angry? Like, keep on going through your why?
I don't know.
I think what people forget too is we give up our power. We're so wanting power and control that they don't realize when you get angry, whether it's at a person, a situation, or whatever, you're actually giving up your power, because now something else outside of you, externally, is controlling your feelings.
Well, do you think impulse control plays into that? Because I feel like a lot of people have lost impulse control. Like they
Sure.
just don't know when to just stop.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think the other part of it is, I mean, is that even, even if you do find someone who's of an opposing belief system or whatever, you can just agree to be like, you know what, I respect that you believe that way. That's not for me. And then, just move on. I mean, if they keep, if one or both parties keep going, into the conversation, but look, we both know where this conversation is going to go. And I think, to maintain our friendship, to maintain, us not having to get into an argument over something. I mean, we both obviously believe something totally different, and that's okay. Why don't we focus on the things that we have in common and build off of that, instead of focusing on the things that are different about us, about each other.
Well, and using the example you used earlier, too, I think we have to start looking at, so using the pipeline, right? So what we need to remember is these really strong feelings and reactions are coming from the same place, no matter what side you are on any issue. And that's coming from your values and your morals and your ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to take the pipeline, if I value hard work, it's because I feel strongly about that I'm upset. If I value the environment, it's because I feel strongly and value that and that I'm upset. So you're coming from the same place. It's just two different angles. So if that's even where we have to start, like I can respect that you have strong enough values that you want to have this conversation, that you have something you feel strongly about, but it doesn't mean that your values and your um, ethics and morals are any better or worse than mine. They're just different. And that's where we lose our mind. It's different. So, public service announcement for y'all. Different is okay. It's just different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's not better, it's not worse, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, that goes back to being mature enough to say, okay, let's just agree to disagree.
Right.
I agree. I agree on that.
I mean, part of why I don't get on Facebook anymore is because I don't want to argue with people. I don't want to
Right.
lose friends. So it's like, well, I'm just gonna step back. I'm one of those people. I took a step back because I'm like, I value my friends and I don't want something decisive like this to ruin my friendship. So I'm just gonna step back and when this is blown over, then we can reconnect on the things that connected us in the first place.
Right.
Right. And see, that's the other thing. Are you ever going to fully agree with anybody? I mean,
No.
you're not. So,
No, because no one's perfect, and we
no.
all have our individual values and ways of looking at things.
Yes, we all have biases and they're all different. But again, different is not bad.
It's not.
No,
And,
no, it's really not.
focusing on the riots, when we were talking about, when did that become acceptable? You had people who, earlier, Kat, you had mentioned that there were people that felt like they weren't heard or that their point of view wasn't being expressed or whatever. But you also have people that, I think in this case, are just plain scared, and they needed some place to channel that energy because I mean, the world has been suffering from a pandemic, so a lot of our normal life routines have been interrupted. I mean, people who used to go to work now stay home to work, right? Wherever people can work remotely, they do. Gatherings really aren't allowed. I mean, depending on what state you're in, and and also what other country you're in, depending on where you are and listening to this. So the things that we would normally do are, they're curtailed. They're limited, and then you have people who are just plain rebellious. I mean, you have the people with the whole mask issue. I don't want to wear a mask and pretend to have like a medical issue why they can't. This is one of those, you either are listening to someone who's saying that the virus isn't real or the virus isn't as bad as people make it to be. Something just happened.
No, we lost Cat.
Cat, come back. All right, we'll be back after these messages.
I have no idea what just happened. It was like you were talking and all of a sudden you froze. And I was like,
Oh,
am I
okay.
frozen? Is he frozen?
Well, welcome back. So anyway, as I was saying, you have people who are rebellious and people who are told that that this is not as big of a thing as everyone's making it out to be. But the biggest part of this, though, if you really look at it, is again, people are frustrated because they feel like they're being almost like they're being dictated to what they can and cannot do, and they don't realize that this is actually for their own good and their own protection. But you have the people that know this is my life, I'm going to live it how I want to live it and whatever. So then you have that, and then you have people who are on the media, whether it be, and I'm sorry that I'm saying this because again, I really don't want to take sides, but then, you have people like, former President Trump who was inciting that riot. Come on, march over to the Capitol. Not, I mean, he didn't say go storm the Capitol and, and go try to kill everybody. I'm not going to say he said that because he didn't. But I mean, honestly, what would you expect if you're trying to get a group of people over there? You're going to have people, tensions are going to fray, someone's going to snap, it's going to turn violent, and then you have what we had. And people also need to realize that there's consequences for that. I'm actually not that I ever want to see anybody get in trouble, but I'm actually happy that the people that were part of that riot are being prosecuted because it goes to show that you can't do that. There are other ways to do that, and this is not the Civil War. This is not the war of when we split off of Britain. Like I just drew a blank there.
You
um,
know, the interesting thing about that too, Steve, I don't know how far you dug into, there's a couple different articles on the people who've been arrested. The thing that was most interesting to me about that is I know that if I was to survey people who were against that, which is everybody, but there would be a stereotype that they would think of who the people are that were in there.
mhm.
And I saw everything from professors from universities, ex-military. There was actually a congressperson or something. So this was a full spectrum, not just what we would want to say stereotype that we could blame it on the white supremacists or something.
Mhm.
This was a full spectrum of a whole bunch of different people from all different walks of life. This wasn't just poor people. This wasn't just people from the South. This wasn't just blue collar people. This was like a full spectrum. There was, when I was going through just looking, I was like, there's nurses, there's professors, there's Congress. I was like shocked. Business owners,
Mhm.
people who shut down their business for the day to go fly out there and do this. One of the things that tells me is this is a deeper problem than just a group of people who we want to blame about their belief system. This is
Correct.
bigger than that.
But now I think it's the big thing is that it's done and it's over, and now we need to turn towards, well, now how do we recover from that? I mean, and the biggest thing I think, even though I think a big topic is forgiveness, because people need to understand what forgiveness really is. Forgiveness, it doesn't mean you condone it. Forgiveness doesn't mean that it was okay. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're going to continue to like the person or whatever the situation was. Forgiveness really is another word for surrender and letting go. Okay, you're letting go of this negative feeling or this negative intent in you. You're letting that go. Doesn't mean you're forgetting about it, right? But forgiving is like, okay,
Forgiveness is,
it's time to move past. It's time to move on.
well, it's also something you do to heal yourself more than
Correct.
anything.
Absolutely. 100%.
I also am going to keep saying this. This is a sword I am willing to die on, is we've got to take a look at our part in it.
Mm-hmm.
How are you talking to people? How are you commenting on social media? What are you posting? I mean, there are people who are extremely close to me who I saw things that they were posting. I was like, I cannot believe that is out there in the world now. And I can't give it a thumbs up. I can't comment on it. And so again, personal responsibility. What are you doing? What is your part in it? That's the only thing we really have control over. And thinking about the forgiveness, if you have an unforgiving heart, and you're going to hold it against everybody, and you're salty about this, and you want to be, that's your part. Your part is you're not helping anybody by having those thoughts and feelings. So do something with them.
And
Um,
sometimes being right doesn't help you.
No,
well,
not at
no.
all.
And what is right? I mean,
Mhm.
because right is that again, what is right
Subjective.
to those people who were doing that very
Perspective.
thing? Right. Exactly. So for those people who were participating in it, they thought they were doing the right thing. They believed that they had the right to do that. Everybody else can go, oh, that wasn't right. They shouldn't have done that. But again, it's perspective, and that's very individual.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. And another thing is that instead of walking so far away from each other, we need to bring each other back to the table. I mean, and I'm not talking about the partisan groups. I'm talking about us as people, the people who were affected by it. I mean, me personally, I was angry, about the whole thing. When I saw what was going on, I was not only angry, but I was actually embarrassed. I was
I was gonna say I
embarrassed.
wasn't angry. I was ashamed.
Yeah,
I
I was.
mean, we made ourselves as a whole look ridiculous to the entire world.
We did. We
And
did.
that's going to be hard to come back from because it still happens. I was
Yeah,
actually I mean, it's kind of, now we kind of have this reputation, and it's kind of like we're the joke at the dinner table.
Hmm.
we really are. Yeah.
I was in a stream the other day, and there was a whole bunch of Canadian people, and they were talking, and they kept throwing out, they're like, well, in America, and I was like, wow, this is really going to take a while for us to get over.
Hmm.
We really did embarrass ourselves. You're absolutely right.
We did.
Um, More than that, we hurt ourselves,
Hmm.
and that's the part for me. I tend to go
Because
straight
now there's
to,
more division than ever.
Hmm.
yeah, I tend to go straight to I kind of bypass what I call secondary buffer feelings. I kind of go usually straight for the home run and go right to the core. So when I first heard all about this, I got deeply sad. It broke my heart to think that we've gotten to a place where people feel so misunderstood, unheard, unseen, that they would have to go to this kind of extreme, because
Hmm.
it's extreme. I mean,
Hmm.
this was extremist behavior. And the fact that in this day and age, people literally were taking photos of themselves breaking the law. It's like, wow, you really need to be seen, don't you? There's going to be consequences to that, but you're going to get your 15 minutes of fame. Everybody wants that 15 minutes. Everybody wants to be seen. Oh, I recognized, acknowledged. Well, you're going to be, but now what was the cost?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um,
Well, that's the thing that scares me is have we gotten so far down this rabbit hole of wanting acceptance that we're going to drink whatever poisoned Kool-Aid we're given and not bat an eye and not think for ourselves, and like it just seems like it keeps getting worse and worse and we keep going further and further down that rabbit hole.
I want
right.
Kool-Aid.
We've gotten, I mean, I think a part of that really, for me anyways, is we've gotten so far removed from our feelings. Everything becomes an issue. Everything becomes a hill, and a hill that we want to die on because we want to be right. Like we were saying earlier, right? I want to be right. I want to be on the right side. I want to be on the winning
If I
side.
die, I don't want to be on top of a hill. That's a long hike. I'd rather stay at the bottom and just sleep.
Right. Right. It's true. It's tough because there's so much judgment, and there's so much, and again, a basic human need is acceptance and belonging. And so when someone doesn't disagree with so when someone disagrees with something you say, and they start to make you feel ashamed or whatever, it's easier than to go along with it than to speak up,
I'd
for
rather
some
be on the
people.
top of that hill. I just want to say I'd rather be on the top of the hill only because,
You can roll down.
well, there's that. But also for when people want to come see me, or to come get me, they have to get their cardio in for the day.
Yeah,
Their doctors will love me.
there is that too. Well,
Steve looking out for everybody.
I mean, we're joking about it, but that's something too. We can look at the fact that America is the most unhealthy country in the world.
Oh my goodness, yes. I
We
hear that
have,
all the time.
right. I mean, and when you look at some of the third world countries and stuff out there, and we are so unhealthy. And why? Because we have, do you know that in other countries they don't even have like supersized fries at McDonald's,
Yep.
and they don't have like the super big gulps, and like
Well,
we overindulge in every way.
I have a friend in Ireland, and I know people from other countries too, and it's just like so many times I have heard that our food is just disgustingly sweet.
Hmm.
Like they cannot stand our
Yeah,
food, and like generally speaking, because it's just everything's sugar bombed.
right. Yeah,
And
which
that's
is,
because they're pumping all those chemicals in to get us addicted.
I was going to say, because basically it's a drug, you know.
Hmm.
Um, but so we this is why, even on a level of health, whether you're talking, so it doesn't matter what the issue is, whether it's politics, employment, health, we've got to start talking personal responsibility, but we've got to help and educate people on what does that mean, because there's a reason why people follow others. They don't know how to make choices, they don't know how to um, educate themselves or whatever. So we've got to start teaching people that, like, how do I make a decision? We've lost our basic critical thinking skills. How do I make a decision?
Hmm. And
How do I weigh pros and cons?
and just for everybody who's watching this, whether you're watching us live or you're watching this after, understand that this is a multi-part conversation. So today is not the only day we're going to be doing this. Because we do only have 15 minutes left of this particular episode of the podcast. We are going to keep going on about this. Maybe another week or so, week or two. Um, but what I hope that what people are getting out of this is that, look, even though we have our own personal feelings, we have our own personal beliefs, we have our own personal political affiliations, that as an example with the three of us, we can see beyond that, right? There's it doesn't matter who it is you supported. Okay, if you can take a step back and just delve into being a human being and really focusing on your humanity, then I think that that's really what's going to help get us all through it. This isn't about blame, right? Because I think we're past that, right? I think placing blame on people now, we're past that. There's no point. That's for the judges and for the law to take care of. Now it's time for us to recognize what's happened, find ways to prevent it from happening again, and the best way to do that is to start connecting and understanding with each other.
Which goes back to forgiveness.
Yeah, we need to start out with forgiveness, and then we need to have conversations. And these conversations need to,
Those
even if,
mature conversations.
yes, but
Right.
even if the conversation gets heated, if you're gonna get into a conversation with somebody about a topic like this that can get heated, you need to have mechanisms in place where you can find a way to step back and kind of release that steam, blow off that steam without it coming off into the conversation. Even if you need to take a break or you need to walk away for a minute, say, you know what, why don't we go get something to drink, or hey, you hungry? Why don't we get something to eat and then we'll come back to this.
Oh,
Find
Well,
that's
and
another
being
topic we could tackle at some point is healthy coping mechanisms, because I think
right.
that's something that a lot of people lack too.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we've lost the understanding that it's okay to stop something. If you're in a conversation and it's going in a bad direction, usually you can feel it, right? Your chest starts to get tight, your stomach starts to get upset. If you're in a conversation or in a situation that you start to have those, your body's going to tell you. That's another thing when you teach people to listen to their bodies. You'll start to feel it. You anxious, right? Your shoulders. I get like this one. I mean, it's okay to say, you know what? I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now, so I'm just going to go for a walk and I'll come back and we'll finish this conversation later. Like,
Absolutely.
that's okay. You
Right.
don't have to fight until somebody dies. This isn't a duel to the death, but we kind of feel like that because we're so afraid of not being able to be heard or seen or whatever, that it's like, no, that's respect has got to be what's ultimately the goal, like respectfully exchanging a, your words with people, respectfully listening and giving opinions.
Mhm.
And if you can't do that, that's okay. Just acknowledge it and walk away.
Right.
I
And
mean,
then another thing is to just not get yourself involved in it. I mean, there's so many people, and I think then, and again, as another reason I think that we had the riots is that people are so, there are some people who are just so ready to take up a cause no matter what it is. Why not take up a cause that helps everybody? Right? Think about, the people who are being oppressed out there. Think about people who are hungry, people who are, who can't find, excuse me, work for any reason for wherever they are. Why don't we take up a cause to help those people? Take that energy that you have, that you were ready to do whatever it is you were willing to do that would not have ended well, and move that energy over and to do something positive, right? Maybe find a way that you can join a cause that helps. If you're a religious person, join a group of your, with your church, your temple or synagogue, or wherever it is you worship, that does something that you really believe in that helps people, like feeding children. There's Toys for Tots. There's Operation Impact, Easter Seals, all of that. You have so many causes that are already established that are healthy causes that people can take up, that they can, even if they want to be extreme about it, the people that run those causes would love you to be extreme, because then you're putting so much more into it, and you're giving that cause movement instead of doing something that hurts people. And I understand that it's so much easier to destroy something than it is to build something, but I think we need to do the harder work and start building.
well, and this is where
Agreed.
I think we've got to start even sooner than that. I really want people to start thinking about when you're in the grocery store and the clerk makes a mistake. Are you going to be rude and disrespectful, or are you going to be like, it's okay, everybody has their day, and move on? The number of times I see out in public, especially in retail situations or restaurants, people being disrespectful and
Mm-hmm.
rude to the workers
Mm-hmm.
is mind-boggling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, these are people that are just trying to live their life and they made a mistake. We all make mistakes, but people take it as an opportunity to jump on them and to make them bad and make them embarrassed. Like, that's got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I'm on
here's
the
the
other
other
side of
part.
that.
Right. Well, and we, most of us have been at some point, but we forget that. And this is the thing. And this is not taking away from what you said, Steve, but I don't care how much money you give to any charity or how much time you give to charity. You can do that all day long, full time, give them all your money, every paycheck. But if you are rude to your next door neighbor, if you cut somebody off in traffic and flip them off, you are part of the problem still. I don't care how much money you're throwing at some
I feel
charity.
personally attacked. I cut somebody off the other day in traffic because
I
they
agree with Kat there though. She's right on that.
I
Like
feel personally attacked.
Sorry.
No, I was just driving and somebody was driving very recklessly, and I got ahead of them, and then and I got angry because they almost hit me, and I didn't
I
flip them off, but the words that came out of my mouth were none too kind.
Well, and so here's the thing, Stephen. This is another thing. Maybe we do this as a topic, is like, how do we do that? Because it's easy to say that, but for me, like, traffic is one of those things. I get really irritated because I'm like, okay, unless somebody's dying or having a baby, you don't need to drive in recklessly. There's
Hmm.
just no reason. And one of my pet peeves is being on the phone. And 90% of the time, when I pass somebody is driving recklessly, they're on the phone. So that's like a big pet peeve for me. So I have to really work at it. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I have to work at not being rude and disrespectful to others when I'm in the car, because I'm a very safe, cautious driver, and I don't want to be hit in a drunk driving accident. I don't want to be hit when someone's texting somebody. And so I'm really cautious and aware of that. That's my value. Obviously, that's not for everybody else. So I have to work at it. And here's the thing though, when you actually make a conscious effort, it becomes a little bit easier. So I'll talk to myself. This is where I'm going to sound crazy, but that's okay because I am. Like, when that's happening, and if I flip somebody off, or if I'm like, you beep
You
hole,
flip somebody off.
I immediately will catch myself and be like, oops, sorry. I don't know their situation. I don't know their story. Maybe they are in a hurry to get to somebody. Maybe their wife's on the phone and she's fallen and she can't get up. Maybe mom's on the phone. You know, who knows?
That's what
Maybe their
life
kids
alerts
at
for.
school. It's true. It's true. But you see what I'm saying? Like it's not something that just happens. We have to put in the work. We have to make effort. It doesn't just come naturally to be kind and be respectful. It takes work and a commitment, you know, just like anything, but it can be done. And the more
Well,
you do it, the faster the turnaround is.
well, I think that goes back to if you want to see the change, you have to be the
Be the
change,
change.
and you have to take accountability for your own self and how
Absolutely.
you're putting out, because what you put out is what you get back.
Well, and you were talking about the restaurant, like and this is probably going to upset some people, but whichever. Um, I tend to actually flirt with the wait staff whenever they come by. It's just it makes them feel good, and there's people that again because I know that some of them have had bad days. Um, I went to Applebee's years ago with a group of friends, and there was the waiter was a very attractive person, and so I'm just being me, and I'm joking around and everything. And one of my friends actually happened to be friends with him, and all the rest of my friends they're laughing, and everyone's laughing. The waiter's even having a good time, but my other friend looked like he was ready to have an aneurysm. Um, and at the end of all of it, when we were getting ready to leave, we gave the guy a really big tip, and he said, yeah, he thanked me. He said, most of the time I deal with people who all they want to do is complain about something. The only interaction I have is to either take their order or if they have a complaint about something. He goes, you actually made me laugh. He goes, you made me feel good. He gave me a hug before, when we were walking out. And he's like, and anytime you come back here, if I'm working, you ask for me. He goes, and I'll take care of you. So, again, what if someone's doing something for you? What is the point of being rude to them? I mean, make them feel good, make them feel valued, and that's kind of part of it. And the other part, I just like being obnoxious. So, I'm not going to paint myself being a saint here. Um, but being in the of the mindset of, look, these people don't necessarily have to be here. They're here, yes, they need the money, yes, it's a job, or they're trying to pay for school or whatever, but they could do it in other ways, and they're coming here even no matter what's going on in their day. They're trying their best to give you, to be upbeat, to be positive, to be in a good mood, and to deal with you in the best way that they can. So why not give that a little bit back? Why not give that understanding? I was in Starbucks not that long ago, and I went in there honestly because I had to go use the bathroom. But there's usually a policy you have to buy something before you can use the restroom. So I bought a bottle of water, and there was this one woman that was giving her such a hard time and whatnot. And when I got to the cashier, I could see how frazzled she was, and she was even saying how frazzled she was. She was, I'm sorry. She's like, please give me a minute. I said, take your time. I said, I'm not in a rush. Don't worry about them. They could be mad at me. Okay, take a breath. You're doing great. Okay, and this is not going to be this is not going to define your day. And I said, take your time. I said, all I need to do is to pay for this. And she said, thank you. I said, don't worry about it. She's like, I said, I understand what it's like sometimes dealing with the public, and I understand that, people, it's not about you, right? It's, their bad mood is not about you. Even if they're taking it out on you, it's not about you. I said, but I'm like, I'll be a buffer for you for 5 minutes while you very slowly ring up my bottle of water, which is what I want you to do. This way you can take a break. And she did.
And
And she actually said, "You're next." She said, let you, she actually gave me a cookie on her.
and that's the thing is it doesn't cost anything to be kind. And
Mm-hmm.
there's two things that you said in there that I want to reiterate in a different way or reframe. And one is please, please, please don't ever take somebody else's behavior personally. It isn't about you. So, and in that example, that woman, even that, it's like, who knows? Maybe her husband just died. Maybe she just witnessed her cat get run over. That doesn't excuse her behavior. I'm not making an excuse for it, but we don't know everyone's story. We don't have all the information. So personalizing it is just a waste of time. You
Yeah.
know, just chalk it up, because honestly, if you think about it, how upset and angry do you have to be at the world or to treat somebody like that at a coffee place?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so something's going on with her. There's some reason why she behaved the way she behaved. Now, we're never going to know what it is, and it doesn't excuse it. So I can come along, like you did, come along behind them and then give that person the recognition, like, hey, I saw that, that wasn't cool, or take your breath, or whatever it is, just even acknowledging it.
Hmm.
Acknowledging when somebody has been mistreated sometimes is really helpful. Just going like, hey, I saw that interaction. I just want you to know you're all right. It's going to be fine.
Hmm. I had a my previous job that I had. I remember one day, we had a cafeteria, and they served food there. They made sandwiches. I mean, yes, you had to pay for it and everything, but the one lady who I was friends with this lady who worked behind the deli counter, and there was this one guy who, for I don't know why, what it was. I mean, they had identical stations so that two people could make sandwiches at the same time. And the guy was like, "Oh no, no, I want the ham from that side." And she's like, "Sure, it's the same thing." He goes, "No, no, no," and like really giving her such a really hard time. So I mean, and it was getting ugly. I mean, she finally just gave him what he wanted, didn't argue with him, whatever. And when I got up there, she was like, "Oh, do you want your usual?" I said, "Yes." I said, "But I want the ham from that side." And she gave me this look, and I smiled, and I said, "I'm joking with you." I said, "I'm trying to show how ridiculous that was." And I said, "Don't worry about it." I said, "Look, it's one person out of how many people did you take care of today?" I said, "Statistically, that's not even a drop in the bucket." And she's like, "Yeah, I get that." And she laughed, and I said, "Look, you're doing fine." I said, "Look, don't let that bring you down." I said, "I'll take my usual, and you're fine." I said, "Just when you go on break." She goes, "I'm actually going on break in a few minutes." I said, "Go take your break, go relax, go read something that's going to make you feel happy, and and then come back." I said, "Forget about that person." I said, "Forget about Sheldon over there. Okay, the guy who's trying to be like Sheldon from Big Bang Theory. Okay, in fact, if you really want to, maybe go find out where he's sitting and take his spot and see, and see how he reacts." Um, but then I had the people behind me laughing when I said that. So everybody else was, because you could feel the tension with everybody behind me, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, like, how's she going to react to this, to me, and then when everything calmed back down, everything was just business as usual. And I think that's an approach that we really need to take as far as being able to heal with each other, no matter what side of the line, in the sand that you're on. I think we need to erase that line.
Well, and I think that's changing our perspective from I'm going to dig my heels into trying to understand each other,
Hmm.
trying to be compassionate with one another, including ourselves. And that's not something that we're taught. So we have to talk about that. How I really do think that a lot of this stuff comes back to how we treat ourselves. Because I don't know about you guys, but people who feel good about themselves don't typically take out bad behavior on others.
Hmm. Absolutely. So we have about 2 to 3 minutes left. So I'm going to give you each a minute to offer final thoughts. So, Kat, why don't you go ahead? Final thoughts for this
So
episode.
much pressure. um, my final thought, please don't personalize other people's bad behavior. Focus on what you can change. Focus on how you are contributing to the world. Focus on what it is that you say and do. And is it positive or is it negative? Do you want to be part of the solution or part of the problem? We can make a shift, and it starts with small little things, including how you treat yourself. So be kind to yourself and do something nice for yourself today.
Pulse.
For me, I guess just I think people need to learn to communicate better, to communicate in a more mature fashion, to express themselves better, to um, try and understand both sides of the conversation without attacking one another. Just trying to meet common ground.
Absolutely. Go ahead. If there's more, go ahead.
No, I have an alarm going off that I
Oh,
need to
okay.
answer. So if you hear beeping, I apologize.
Yeah. So
Time to get up.
yeah, right. My final thoughts on this is that, again, we're one human family. No matter how much we try to separate ourselves, we have more in common than we do not. Get rid of the superficial things, like things that are skin deep, and we're all the same on the inside. Okay. And we all have the same needs, and a lot of us have the same wants, to be loved and to love, to be cared for and to care for others, and to just find our way in this world. So be kind to yourselves, be kind to each other, and let's start hugging each other instead of fighting each other.
Yesterday was National Hug Day.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please catch us next week at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday for the second part of this, healing from the election and riots. And we will see you all then.